What up, guys? This is Mark Denker here, and today we're talking about technical debt, or more specifically, the difference between financial debt and technical debt. Let's dive in. Guys, this is Mark Denker here, and today we're talking about technical debt and financial debt. Financial debt is definitely the most commonly known type of debt. But as organizations become more and more software driven, more and more digital, or as I like to say, software is feeding the world, then more and more organizations also see that technical debt is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. So let's uncover the difference between the two. So first of all, and I'll link to the article below that I'm looking at. First of all, financial debt. There are two types of financial debt in general. There is good financial debt and bad financial debt. They don't have to be bad only. Debt has a pretty bad rep, as if it can only be bad. But when it comes to financial debt, there's actually a good type of financial debt. For example, if you take a loan in a company or in your organization and you acquire assets that become more valuable than the debt that you borrowed, then that is a good type of debt. You generate more income from the assets that you acquired than the debt that you took. So that is a good form of financial debt. A bad type of financial debt is obviously when the assets go down and you build up net negative equity. So building up negative equity could be, for example, if you borrow money and pay an interest and you don't see the returns on the money that you invested, that you originally borrowed, and therefore the assets either decreased in value or became stagnant, but because you paid interest, it becomes a net negative for your organization. So there are two types of financial debt, good and bad, and I think that's one of the key distinctions between technical debt and financial debt. So let's switch gears to technical debt, because technical debt, there's no type of technical debt that is good, like financial debt. There could be good financial debt. Technical debt is inherently bad. It slows down the organization. It creates a lot of hassle for everybody involved building a technical stack. And the term technical debt was first coined in 1992 by Ward Cunningham, which is a computer programmer. And he used a metaphor that shipping first-time code, the first time you ship code, is like going into debt. It's like borrowing money or whatever type of debt that you might accumulate. A little debt speeds development so long as it is paid back promptly with a rewrite. Objects make the cost of this transaction tolerable. The danger occurs when the debt is not repaid. So basically, whenever you ship code the first time, if you don't rewrite and update and revisit the code, technical debt will continue to pile up, and therefore the debt is not repaid, and it becomes a staggering amount of technical debt, which in the end you will not be able to pay as an organization. So dealing with technical debt, there's a lot of organizations out there that have been caught off guard, building up their technical stack, making it more and more complex, and then at some point something breaks down somewhere in the system and they will not be able to fix it because the technical debt is just way too high. So let's talk about the three ways that technical debt accumulates. There are more ways than three, but these are the top three ways that we've seen over time, that I've seen in my career. The first reason why technical debt accumulates is because of new code bases. Basically, the software industry is moving at an incredible pace. It moves super fast. New frameworks and new even programming languages, they come out almost on a monthly basis at this point. And therefore, if you work on a very old programming language, technology, framework, whatever you use, and it doesn't get maintained properly, then obviously your technical debt will go up. So shifting code bases, new code bases coming out, is definitely a problem, and we like to say in software that creates legacy code that is outdated, not compatible to mobile devices, not compatible to watches, or whatever new devices are out there. There's good reasons why there are new code bases coming out. It's not just for the sake of introducing new code bases. It's typically because new devices come out, new screen sizes and all that. And therefore, if you don't revisit your code, you will end up building up an incredible amount of legacy code and therefore technical debt. So that was number one, new code bases. Number two is what is known with a fancy word as software entropy. So over time, software becomes complex. You build on top of the next layer, and therefore it becomes very costly to maintain. Due to continuous changing, it becomes very disorganized very fast when you build on top of pre-existing code. And this is what is known as software entropy. Basically, complexity building up, making it harder and harder to do anything with the system. And that's, in a nutshell, what technical debt is all about. So that was number two. And number three, a very, very common thing. It might have been number one because we see it so often in the industry. But number three is lack of documentation. When you build something, it's very tempting to just build, and never document. Don't comment what you're doing. Don't document basically why you're doing what you're doing. This is a very common mistake that a lot of developers, but people in general make. They just want to move fast. They have other things to do other than documenting. So as a system grows over time, documentation becomes less and less, really. It becomes diluted, outdated, and what have you. So these are the three things that you see typically building up technical debt. Make sure not to make the same mistake. So number one, new code bases. Number two, software entropy. And number three, lack of documentation. If you avoid these three things, your organization, whatever you're trying to build, is much more equipped to succeed in a world where software is feeding the world, as I like to say. So yeah, there you have it, guys. If you think that I left out something, I'd like to hear in the comments below what you think. And until then, guys, I will see you for the next one.